No.
Edgar's sending his virtual hugs to everybody. Okay, let's see if we're live. I think we are, but there's always a strange delay. Okay, if anybody is on Facebook and sees this, just drop a heart. Let's see. I'm double checking before we start. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, we are live officially. Hi, everybody. I'm here with my friend and former client, Nellie. Hi, Nellie. How are you? Thanks for being with us.
I'm so good. So happy to be on with you again. This is such a
Yes.
treat.
So I wanted to bring on Nellie, even though she was in my program, like 2 years ago, 2019, because she has been blowing up her business and having success and getting out there and doing webinars and launching programs. And I just wanted to have this follow up interview to see what you've been up to. So tell people, first of all, what is your business? Of course, shout it out and tell people where to find you and what it's all about. And then tell people, what you started at 2 years ago and where you're at now.
So my name is Dr. Nellie Glusman. I am a pediatrician and I opened a holistic pediatric practice in New York City that expanded nationally now as a course. So my focus is reversing chronic childhood illnesses by looking at the root cause of what is causing it in the first place. And the approach is very holistic, and it's a way to teach families how to really take control and empower themselves and their families and their kids to reverse these problems. It's a really nutritional approach. And even though I studied all this for many years, I had absolutely no idea when I met you how to start a business. So it was kind of circulating in my mind for like a year or two. And I remember the conversation I had with you when I was like, I have no idea where to start. And that's when we started working together 2 years ago now.
Yeah, I know. God, it seems like yesterday, right?
That's
Amazing, amazing. And the work you're doing is really important because I know you're dealing with, at least, back when you worked with me, you were dealing with clients who kind of lost hope and didn't know where to turn with their children and with these these dysfunction disorders in the body. And then things like I know you deal with things like Lyme, and I don't know if COVID has come up. I'm curious, like, what is it that's who is your client and what are they really struggling with, and like what kind of because I know there's a lot of people listening, of course, who might want to know more about it. But yeah, what is your ideal client up to?
So in the beginning, in the first few stages of your coaching program, your mastermind program, we had a lot of focus on figuring out who the ideal client was. And I feel like I really honed in on it then, and I did all the homework. And so my ideal client didn't really change much since then, and I've just been perfecting it. So who it normally is are parents of kids who have mostly things like eczema, asthma, allergies, and things like vaccine damage or a lot of gut health issues, and of course Lyme if they're in New York. And these are the parents that had been already through the whole entire wheel of conventional medicine, and I'm very well versed in this because that's my background as a conventional pediatrician, and also as a parent who's struggled with a kid with a lot of chronic problems. I've been there myself. And so I took those life experiences and my own personal pains and the pains of my daughter and my own struggles, and I kind of was able to figure out what really speak to my ideal client. And so most of the people that reach out to me now, both in New York and nationally, have been struggling with the same. And it's actually so interesting that a lot of times when I do webinars, or I've been a guest on many podcasts at this point because I love podcasts. And so after like a podcast interview, a lot of parents will call me and they'll say, I feel like you spoke directly to me, like just to me. This is exactly how I felt. So I know that I'm on the right track because it really speaks to the pains, unfortunately, of this particular sector of parents. And but not all is bad news because the solutions are available. So it's just a matter of finding them and finding a practitioner that you trust.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you just talked about something really big that we do in my program is really understanding your ideal clients. And then, yes, it's all about honing in on it and perfecting it. It's not so much, changing it unless you really want to. A lot of times people start to see over the years the demand is different, or, life changes, or look at where we are now. Like, we didn't know there would be a global pandemic in 2019. So you just said you've been on podcasts, and when you were in my program, you had the most amazing thing happen where I've told so many people, I'm like, you guys, there's like magic involved when you really align with your heart and follow those messages that you're hearing to start your business. Nellie had BuzzFeed like reach out totally out of the blue, and then you were on their YouTube video or whatever it was, and it went viral, and it's had like 500,000 hits, or probably by now like 900,000. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. Like, I know, because I'm on your email list, I see that you do webinars, you've launched a program. Where did this evolve from when you were in my Mastermind program? I taught you how to speak to your ideal clients, how to share your own story and share those, your pains and what you went through with your own children. And where have you evolved now? Like the webinars and the course, tell us a little bit about that.
I feel like it really started the day that you gave us homework to do, and the homework assignment was super simple. It was post on your personal social media about what you're doing, because a lot of times when a lot of us that were starting off and had no business, and we didn't have like the language or the trust in ourselves to put it out there and like talk about what we're doing. It's also great practice to continuously say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and like perfect the pitch and figure it out, and then be comfortable expressing it and not be afraid to be judged. But I was super afraid, because most people that I met, they didn't even know I was a pediatrician. So I was really uncomfortable with it. And then stepping outside of the world of conventional medicine and doing something what is considered to be very radical, was really scary for me. But how can you have a business and be an entrepreneur if you're not comfortable saying what you're doing? So you gave us this assignment, and I wrote up this thing, and it was completely fake. and you knew it was not real. Like you by then knew me so well, because we had these very intimate conversations every single week about our experience and why we're doing this, and all these exercises to bring out exactly why from the heart. So I rewrote it from the heart for the first time, about why I'm starting this business and what my troubles are and what I want to see in the world, and trying to be the change that I want to see. And like, I wrote it on my personal Facebook. The response was enormous. And I think it was like 12 hours later, BuzzFeed somehow saw it, because someone, I don't know how they saw it. It was a public post at that point, and someone from BuzzFeed saw it, and they cast me in a video that was like a big deal. And so that was the first time ever being on camera, and I couldn't get enough. At that point, I was kind of hooked, and it was so scary to be out there and put my voice out there, and kind of not being afraid to be judged the way that I used to be. And I switched over to doing podcasts because I love listening to them. And the same thing, I did the same thing. I wrote a pitch, I put it out there, I sent it out, and the response was incredible. And so the lesson that I keep learning over and over again, and it's just so much fun because it always works, is just put it out there. It doesn't hurt to try and not be afraid to fail. And if you fail, you could get back up and do it again. Who cares? Even better, stronger. So thank you, Beth. I'm having a blast.
I love this. Okay, there's a couple of things I want to hear more about, but you said something really big. So all of my clients go through this, and it's interesting. I tend to work with a lot of clients doing these kind of edgy things. Like you said, it was very radical to, especially you coming from the traditional Western healthcare system. And then here you are with this kind of new, new methodology, which, I don't know. Whenever I say new, I'm like, well, all these things are really like ancient wisdom, really. But it's like new to a lot of people. Like it's, not so big yet. And this is a lot of my clients who, let's say, are, working with psychedelics, or I have a couple of like death coaches in my current program, people doing tantra and sacred sexuality, these things that feel really edgy, even though they're just part of nature, right? Like these are just normal. But coming out and saying it and speaking your own truth and sharing from your heart, do you feel that this was something you could have done completely on your own, or was it better to have the support of a coach and a community and be in a group knowing that everybody's going through the same process of like, feel the fear and do it anyways?
I don't know if it's I'm sure it's possible to do it on your own, but I would not be able to do it on my own because I didn't. So even though I wanted to, I didn't know where to start. I personally really benefited from having the accountability of a group.
Mm-hmm.
The step-by-step approach was magical for me because I love to learn and I'm a great student, and it was just like no fluff, exactly what you need to do, ABC for busy people like me who have a kid and a career already and a bunch of other things and a family. And so it was very efficient use of my time, but also spoke on a level where it allowed me to get out of my own way in a way that I couldn't do for myself. So having a group that I felt so connected to, it's not like we were all besties. We're all different and in all different fields, and it didn't matter. It's the support, and it was a long program. So we really, I feel like, really raised each other and we're honest with each other, and you get to practice a lot of the things and like, what do you think about this? Or so everyone is there for you, and it's all like laid out. Like, if you want to start a business, this is exactly what you want to do. And if your business is a little bit different than a conventional business, then this is exactly the program that's going to help. And I think that especially when you're just starting out or you want to get into like a new sector, that this is actually extra excellent. So after that, I've like read a bunch of books, all the recommendations that you provided us for like extra things. I've continued to learn. But a lot of like, if you read a book about it, it's a lot of like fluff, and like, who has time for that?
Yeah.
So this was like a very like solid, like step 1, step 2, step 3. I did everything you said, and now I have a full-fledged business, and I'm really happy because this is I'm living my truth, and I get to do what I always wanted to do. It's my calling. It's so rewarding. I get to help families in a big way, and it's been a year and a half. And so the kids that I started working with a year and a half ago, now I'm starting to really see the results, because this is not like a overnight approach. Healing is never like a magic bullet. It's a whole lifestyle change. And so only now I'm starting to get like massive amount of like recommendations from other people. Like, how did you know about me? And it was by referral. So super awesome life experience and adventure.
This is so amazing. Yeah, it's only upward from here. I mean, this is what I teach all my clients as well, is you have to build the foundation of a business. And it doesn't matter what kind of business, but every business needs to have a really solid foundation to build on. And over time, it actually it's like an upward spiral. It just gets easier, it grows, things become more of the flow. And you can only learn by doing. Like you said, I've read every book there is. There's a million books out there of how to grow an online business. But until you actually go out and do it and have the accountability and also that support, like I personally have always had a business coach or some sort of coaching program, because even just coming out and talking about it can be scary as hell. Like you said, like sharing yourself, sharing your story, and knowing that there's a group there who's just going through the same thing, who will support you. And like, I love what you said, we're not besties, but I'll tell you, the group that's running this year, there's 20 people in it so far, and they're like amazing. I mean, of course, everybody's always amazing, but it just gets like more and more deep every year. And I think now with just the world that we're in, like people are really driven to start to make a real difference in the world, meaning like, people like you, like I remember when I first met you, you were talking about functional medicine and shifting and, this kind of limbo of like, well, I really want to do this and, move into this. And I remember this is another, I think I might've said this the last time I interviewed you. This was one of my favorites. When Nellie and I were talking, she's like, well, I, got a website up and I guess I'm going to start to blog. And I'm sitting there going, oh, wow, like that's a lot. Like I don't even really blog that much because it's so time consuming. And I was like, how is she going to do that? Like, why is she going to do, who told her to, and I said, so who told you to blog as like the first thing to do in your business? And you're like, well, I just thought you were supposed to do that. But then I asked you, do you like to write?
Yeah, remember, I actually never really blogged. And I did exactly what you said, the do what you love to do.
Yeah.
So that's podcasts for me.
Yeah. Interviews, yeah, webinars. Yeah, so tell more. So I've seen you've run a lot of webinars. I think you've launched, is it an online program or like a hybrid program? Like tell more about what you've launched this, I think it's in the last like year, you've launched some new programs.
So it's a course, it's a 30-day course called Rescue Your Child's Health, and it's national, and I have some international families as well. So it's not restricted to location. And so it's a 30-day program called Rescue Your Child's Health that teaches families step by step how to start reversing chronic childhood illnesses. So it's like the foundation of what you need to, before you take any supplements or blow all your money on like testing and functional medicine, this is what you need to do to really start reversing your gut health. And as a parent who was just as confused and overwhelmed, I know, and busy, I knew exactly how to take all the extras out. And this is like exactly what works. This is evidence-based, and it's accessible to all families. There's no extra cost. You don't really need to buy anything. It's a group program, and it was live, and I was able to change it based on exactly who was in my program. And I did 2 different launches of it already. The first was like my practice launch, and the second blew up. So I was really, I met my goals with it, and that's where I'm going to continue to base a lot of my work on.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I love it. And the next will blow up and the next will blow up. That's how these things go. So one thing I always found really interesting with you is that, you work in a hospital, you're still a doctor, you're still doing your old job job. But I remember you were nervous about coming out and doing this while you were also in the system. But I'm curious, what has changed in your job? Like, because a lot of my clients come to me while working jobs or working part-time, and they're making a transition. And then there's always this like magic that starts happening at their job. And I've seen everything now. Like I've seen crazy stories. I've seen like the unbelievable. But tell me, how has your job shifted since launching your business as well?
So I ended up having a lot more free time at my job. And that time allowed for more headspace to be able to focus on my personal projects like this. And I also stopped being nervous about it. I was like really scared about talking about it to other people. But I teach medical students and residents. And I decided that it's just not fair for me to have all this information and not teach it. And so now I started to teach them everything I knew and everything I felt, and teaching them as I'm supposed to teach them how to look at the root cause of things, not just treat the symptoms. And now there's actually like a wait list to rotate with me. So the response has been wonderful. It's been really good and very rewarding. Once I got the fear out of the way, and that only took practice doing it and seeing like no one bit me, no hate mail, I did nothing wrong. And so it's been being passed around, and like all these other doctors who I never knew in my hospital that I in my job would start reaching out and asking me all these questions. Like, I have a problem, my kid has this problem, and I'm like, wow, it's a really I'm so honored because it's so out of the world of conventional medicine, and yet the response has been truly magical. So that's what's changed. I'm just like not living in fear and being able to speak my truth.
Yeah, this is really big, and this is a lot of my clients come to me. Of course, everybody wants to start their business, have their own personal freedom, do what they love, like feel like they're living in alignment with their soul on a deeper level, and like have that joy in their everyday. But there's always this deeper level purpose, which is, okay, there's certain systems or, ways of living that aren't working. Like, for example, if kids aren't getting the right treatment with certain disorders, like, you knew that there was another way, that even though our system hasn't really agreed to that for a really long time, and now there's new medical findings, there's new studies, like, the information is out, and now you're actually, internally changing systems. Like, these are the kind of things that change the way we live and really elevate, like, human life on a deeper level. And that's where, I always say, look, this comes back to, yes, you and your job and your life and your work, but on a deeper level, it's like, you could actually now affect the way hospitals approach things, or, like, all the doctors in your hospital are now being open up to a different viewpoint, and this is kind of like a larger scale of like, well, what if this went international? And what if, kids didn't have to suffer from this? And what if there was an actual easier way than just popping a bunch of pills or having surgeries or whatever? Not saying there's anything wrong with pills or surgeries, by the way. But this is this depth is really important to point out, because in the end, I believe that, especially entrepreneurship, you always have to have this like larger vision of like why you wanted to even bring this out here. Why is this important? Like, you've already suffered and you found a better way. Now it's almost like this duty. Like, I work with a coach who says, it is my duty to help people, because otherwise it's like you have this knowledge that's not being shared on a larger scale. So that's, we go through a lot of this in my program of like really tapping into that drive that's beyond, I always say, mission over ego. Like, it has to come from within your heart versus like your fear. But you have mentioned getting past fear. I'm curious, because a lot of people, of course, come to my program, like, especially people going into these taboo psychedelics, sacred plant medicines, alternative healing, alternative health. That's like maybe not widely accepted yet. What was your biggest fear beforehand, before starting up your business, and how has it changed? Like, what was the one, getting fired from your job or something? Like,
I think my biggest fear was people hating me if I wasn't. But like, if you do a podcast or you make a video and there's something off about it, it's not perfect, or something doesn't work, or you stutter, or you say too much. So my fear was being judged just by my ability to perform on different kinds of media routes, and that's silly because it's not about me at all. Like you said, it's about the message. And then I quickly realized, as you said, that if you're just being yourself, that's what genuine from the heart. That's all you really need. You don't have to be perfect, and it's okay if your email post is not perfect. And so my biggest fear was not being perfect, but I learned to be genuine, and now I'm really comfortable just being myself, and it's a really, really nice way to wake up in the morning.
I love it. I love it. Beautiful. So then, what would you say to someone who's, I get a lot of people saying, I want to start a business. I have this idea. I'm not clear what it is. And I don't know what to do first, and I'm afraid. Like, what would you say to them?
The not sure what to exactly do part, I mean, you could just follow your calling. It really doesn't hurt to, you can figure it out as you go along. So like, I had no idea when I started that I was going to focus on eczema, asthma, allergies. I had no idea it was going to be an online class, but only through experience can you figure out the nuances of your business. And so if the calling of being an entrepreneur and making a change in the world in any way that whatever way you call that, is calling you, then not knowing exactly how it's going to look in 5 years or even a year should never stop you. That's my message.
I love it. No, that's perfect. And, this is what I talk about a lot, because people come to me, which I call this clarity conundrum, where they say, I feel that I want to start a business, but I'm not sure what it's going to look like. So I'm not going to start it until I know what it looks like. And then I'm like, well, but so they think that they will have to think about it. Like, let me think about it for 2 more years before I start my business. But after a while, and I'm sure you went through this, because I had known you personally for at least like 1.5 years or 2 years where you were thinking, right? But the thinking only takes you so far. It's actually the experience of doing it, like putting it into reality and then going and learning as you went along. Like you didn't know you'd focus on eczema or, allergies until probably a few clients or, a few experiences. So that's really interesting that you say this, because so many people, a lot of my clients come to me after 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes like, 5, 6, 7 years of just thinking and thinking and thinking. But it has to be felt. It has to be experiential and like an embodied experience of knowing what it's like to work with people, start your business, put yourself out there, and see the magic that happens, like Nellie's magic. So a couple more questions, then I'll let you go. What else? Are there any like magic stories that have happened in the last like year and a half or 2 years that just felt like that one moment of like, wow, I'm really doing it? Like besides being on BuzzFeed and having like 1 million views on their YouTube. But yeah, like a moment where you're like, wow, this is very real and I'm helping people and I'm making money from it. And any stories like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time. Well, this is small stuff. I really like. I'm a sucker for like feel good on a daily basis. So it was maybe a week ago. I do these discovery calls where I want to make sure that the person that I'm going to be working with. I mean, you do the same, Beth. Like if you're going to work closely and intimately with somebody, you want to talk to them beforehand. So I did these discovery calls, and I was a little bit busy and overwhelmed like a month ago, and I wanted it to kind of like slow down with the amount of work that was coming my way, and it kind of did. And I don't know if it's the holidays or if it's the universe just listening to me. It slowed down, and then I felt like it's slowing down a little bit too much, and I got a little nervous. And then overnight, I did nothing different. I had like 9 discovery calls in one day booked.
Oh my God.
And I was doing them and doing them and doing them. And every single conversation that I was having was amazing to my soul. Like, I really enjoyed it. The kinds of people that were calling me were incredible humans that I loved speaking to. And I just enjoying that process so much. Like, maybe they didn't all turn into a client, but it didn't matter. I was just being able to be like, you know what, if you don't work with me, that's, maybe this is not right for you, but here's an amazing book. And I felt like I was connecting with so many people who were so in line with what I was doing, and also being a ear for them to listen to. I felt like I was really energetically like meshing with all these families in a really powerful way, and it really was like super warm to my soul, and my heart was full at the end of the day, and I rejuvenated, even not exhausted, but like super rejuvenated after all these calls. So it's the small stuff. Big stuff happens too, but I think that the fun is in the small things. And that's what happened last week.
That's huge. By the way, 9 calls in a day is actually quite huge. And yes, this is exactly it. I actually wrote an email about this to my newsletter recently about this idea of, back when I had my other business, like I couldn't even focus and I was just losing it. And then I was trying to take all these like herbs for focus. And I realized, this is just recently, I was like, oh, I think it's because I just wasn't lit up by it. I wasn't into it. And then it just became like unjoyful, it wasn't as, it didn't have that inspiration. And in that case, you might as well just get a job you don't like, because it's the same experience. But when you're really doing what aligns with your heart, and it's like you just said, it like lit you up, it left you energized. That's how I feel. I have to usually tell myself to stop working because I love working so much, because it's like, it brings me so much fulfillment that I don't feel like it's work. Like I always make jokes that the only time it's work is paying taxes. The rest is just soul. It's like me just being who I am and coming from my soul. So, and I agree, like the small daily wins of like life being fulfilling and inspired and really loving what you do, it adds up and it just keeps you going.
Oh, you're the one that taught me about wins, by the way.
They're important.
Yeah, I had no idea. I never really did this. So the little wins, that's how each conversation that we had in our mastermind started. And I actually do this in my group too. Like, what are your wins?
Good.
Amazing, because it's a super amazing icebreaker. It sets everything up for positive thinking, and it's just so nice, and
Yeah.
it costs nothing. It's like
Yeah.
a start of your day to reflect back on the wins.
Yes.
Taught me that. Thank you so much. I apply it all the time.
Especially, it's a lot of every coach I've pretty much worked with does it. But especially women have a hard time really acknowledging, our growth, our success, our wins, like bragging, like, hey, I made all this money, or hey, I got all these clients. But it fuels our soul, and this is like this idea of your success is now inspiring others that they can do it too. It's like that's the whole point of it, is to really. And this is why, my group Mastermind, it tends to be this energetic thing of when you're in a program with others and there's wins and people are getting clients and people are growing and they just, you broke through some major fear. When you're with other people doing it and you're hearing this, you're like, oh, okay, it's not that hard. I can do it too. And I also now have a supportive community that I can come back to and, cry or freak out or celebrate, like all of the above within a community and with the support versus doing it all alone. Because, the wins and even the lows, like there's always going to be the down points during entrepreneurship. I don't know anybody who hasn't had them, but when there's something that doesn't go as well or, feels really hard or, okay, that was scary. Like it's great to have a place to go vent and just say like, we've all done it. So that's the whole point of being inside of the group program. And that's where you get the support to get out of those downward spirals so much quicker. Back when I had a previous business, when I downward spiraled, it would like take me out for a week, or even more. But when you have a group and a support of a coach and a network, and now my program brings in like everything. It's like super holistic. I bring in chanting and somatic therapy and just all these amazing added bonuses. But then when bad things happen, you just snap out of it so much quicker, and that's how you keep growing a business. It's like just keep pushing through and going through the process of the pain and coming out the other end and experiencing the wins like you've had. So awesome. So tell people a little bit more about what is it that you're up to now and next? Like what's on your table what are you putting out there in 2021?
So I'm continuing to be interviewed on podcasts. I'm releasing about 4 a month or so at this point.
Awesome. Oh my God.
So that is in the background, and also I'm turning my course into an Evergreen Course.
Nice.
So that's the next step right now.
Nice. Beautiful. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm like, I have like 10,000 strategies for you now all of a sudden. No, but this is awesome. And actually I'm launching a podcast this spring. So Nelly, I will have to have you on as a guest because it's not just all about business. It's about life. So that is really awesome. So my one last question, and now I like blanked out on what it was. What's next? Oh yeah, go for it.
Well, I actually have I was just thinking about back then and how I thought it was such a huge investment, not only of time, which is our most valuable asset, I believe, but also financial. And so if you're like starting with zero, and then it seems like a big investment, which it is an investment, but I made it back in like 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's kind of perspective, like big picture approach.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to share with you.
No, thank you for saying that. Actually, I should make that one of my standard questions because it's like my program is designed so that if you get one client or 2 clients, you literally make the investment back. And the thing is, as an entrepreneur, you always have to think, it's a different way of thinking than being just a worker at a job. But entrepreneurs think about investing into the growth of their business, meaning what is the return on investment? So the return on investment, like Nelly's showing right here, is like, okay, I can continue growing my business from now on. Yes, it's a year-long program, but then what happens after that? It's like it just grows and grows and grows. And being on 4 podcasts a month is a big deal. And doing an evergreen, I don't even have an evergreen course yet. That's a huge thing. And this is how we can actually affect global change on such a level, meaning now more and more people can access your course. Life becomes easier. Your business has probably been a little easier for you in some ways too, I'm sure. Like now that you're in the rhythm, the flow. So awesome. This has been so great to follow up with you and talk. Oh my God, I could talk to you for hours. But do you want to let people know where to find you, how to like find out more about what you offer?
Yes. So one way to find me is my website, which is blossompediatrics.com. And another way is to follow me on social. And my name is Dr. like Dr. _Gluzman, Gluzman.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Nellie. So for those of you who are joining in late, Nellie and I just talked about her experience in my True Path Entrepreneur Group Business Coaching Mastermind program. The doors for 2021 are open now. There's an amazing, like seriously next level, like high vibe group from like quite literally all over. Like we have Europe, Australia, Japan, Canada, US, and everybody's a very heart-based entrepreneur with really big missions. And, like Nellie, like really putting themselves out there or wanting to create systematic change, to help people live a life they love, but really, create the change that they want to see, like open up, new potentials on earth. Like, hey, you have healing, you can live a life you love, you can get through this, you can, integrate to become a better human being. And then you also get to live the life that you love and be fulfilled. And Nellie is one of my favorites. The testimonial is on my website where it says, and even have a better sex life.
Yeah.
One of my current clients said her marriage is improved. I'm like, yes, it's all interconnected. When you're happy and when you're fulfilled, everything else starts to align. So awesome. Thank you so much, Nellie. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. And everybody, you can just reach out. You know what? We'll put Nellie's links in the comments in this video so you can reach out to her and reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy snow day.